I tell you what, let's wind back. Thank you, Martin. Let me wind back and pretend all of that never happened. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I hope you're all fit and well, bloody, bloody, blah. As you may be able to tell, flick the mic switch, he says. Yes, listen, I don't know. Lots of people telling me what a pillock I am. And Martin, thank you. Yes, I am here. As you may be able to tell, Demob happy today. Last show for 5 days. And this time tomorrow, I'll be on my way to Bergamo in Italy to celebrate my wedding anniversary with the love and the bane of my life. Who is the same person? There'll be no actual show tomorrow, although you will be notified of something to keep you entertained in my absence. Under normal circumstances, I spend an hour or two after each show updating social media, responding to comments and emails and that sort of thing, but not today. Not today. As soon as this show is over, I'm going to be packing my bag ahead of the trip. There seems to be years in the making. I hardly wait. As much as I enjoy your company, Bergamo, the food, the people, everything there is amazing. So chances are, next time you see me, I'll be about a stone heavier. I'm going to go through the chat very quickly. Have you got your holiday head on? Yes. Yes, I have. In actual fact, I'm just while everyone is here, I want to show you a thing. I'm going to start doing this on a fairly regular basis. Just let me get to the right place. Yes, I'll upload that right now. I was messing about with a couple of photo manipulation programs this morning, and I've decided on a regular basis, I'm going to be informing people what the green room looks like ahead of the show. And this was the green room before we went live today. Yes. See, now the funny thing is, while I have aged since 1986, Guns N' Roses look exactly the same as they did back then. Yes, as you can tell, I am very much demob happy, and yes, I will be a lot heavier next time I see you. I've been treating my body like a temple for the last few months. Wheels are about to fall off, people. There's going to be carbs aplenty, pasta and pizza, and possibly a risotto to go in there as well. So. How about we actually kick things off and get the show on the road? I've got a question of the day for you today that also comes from Gary Muirhead, and we've got a mystery machine. There's a bit of me that thinks I'll get it past you. There's another bit that thinks you're going to get it in a couple of frames, but we shall see. But let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get the show on the road. To say a good morning to Steve Williamson and Mark Whiting, who crept in while I was doing something else, while I was trying to figure out my sound, basically. It is, what is it? It is, I should know this because I'm away tomorrow. It is Thursday, the 9th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the vile walrus of Demolition. Makes me laugh anyway. In today's show, we're going to meet the mighty Skogger. You heard me right. I said Skogger. Rango Unchained with Volvo Construction Equipment, a rainy footbridge removal. What goes into the making of a massive Komatsu mining truck? Plus, is this Bobcat telescopic handler a glimpse of the future? To my mind, it most certainly is, but I'll be interested to get your take on it. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's. Let me key it in with a bit of this. Yeah, the question, or the answers for our question of the day. I'll come back to that in just a moment. They're starting to roll through. But first of all, we have a machine for you to identify. Once again, we have trawled through the archives to find something from the industry of yesteryear. And this is what you need to identify. Yes, I can see you beating a path to your phones right now to send me a message telling me exactly what that is. or not. That's what you've got to work with. Anybody's got any suggestions on that? I'd love to hear from you. Anybody over on Instagram, you can take part as well. Just let us know if you think you can identify that machine over in the chat. While you're trying to do so, let me remind you very quickly of our question of the day, and then we'll get this show properly on the road. We've had a suggestion over on Instagram what that mystery machine may be, and I can show you it's there. Martin, the Norwegian Earth Mover, says it's a green one. Funnily enough, it actually isn't. It's kind of turquoisey. But you're close. I get your point. And we're looking for makes and models on that one as well. So, question of the day. It's just flashed up on the screen. Our question of the day today comes from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead, and it is this. What was your favourite toy? Your favourite toy when you were growing up? Now, I spent most of my youth either with a football under my arm or sat on a bicycle. Neither of those really constitutes a toy. So, I've had to go back a little bit further. It would have to be a dragster car that my dad bought me. And I should have checked the dates for this, but it was the first year that the Christmas lights in London's Regent Street were replaced by lasers. They didn't do much from memory. I think they just went back and forth, but they were actual laser beams, like from the movies. This was a big deal back in the day. This would have been, my guess is late 70s, mid 70s possibly. Yeah, so the 70s, we went to see the lasers as a family. While we were there, we called into the Hamleys, the huge toy shop on London's Regent Street. And I chose a dragster car, about yay long, had a pull cord. You pulled the cord and let the car go, and sparks would fly out of the back as the thing shot off down the living room. And it really did shift. There were dents in the skirting board throughout our family home as a result, which my dad was absolutely delighted about, as I'm sure you can imagine. Somebody called 4 Cheese Pizzas just joined us over on Instagram. So there's your question of the day. What is your favourite toy growing up? Let us know in the chat, and we will come back to that at the end of the show. Have we had... we've had a few suggestions on our mystery machine, so let me throw that up on there. Who have we had? Steve Williamson is not committing himself quite yet. He says it's a dipper. It is not a particularly big dipper, if you get my take, get my meaning. Jim Turner says a 90s JCB 803 3-ton mini digger. It is not. A 2-ton Cabelco. It is not. Gary Muirhead is going with a Fiat Archie F8 120. It is not. Steve is going with a John Deere. It is not. Is it a Komatsu PC01? It is not that either. And Steve is also going for a JCB 8025. It is none of those things. But I do need to say a very good morning to NPK Europe, who makes some awesome attachments. Saw them over at Intermac. Man alive, NPK. I salute you people. You do some fine stuff. Now, Dan Cullen has gone with, when I can get it to display, he's gone with the IHI 28N. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do 2 IHIs back to back. Surely you know me by now. And Dan is also going for the Yanmar B12. Martin, a Norwegian Earth Mover, says, first look at the stick, old Senebogen. It is none of those things. So let me show you just a smidgen more. There you are. Don't know if that helps at all, but keep the guesses coming on. I'd love to hear from you. And Simon Skelton, Badger Welding, just joined us over on Instagram as well. So all present and correct. Good morning to you all. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let us begin, shall we? Have you ever heard of the Skogger? I know it sounds like a monster from Norse mythology, but it's actually a machine from those fine folks at Bell Equipment. And this is what it does. Pretty smart, right? Pretty smart. Let's have a look. We've had some comment on that. I actually thought that was going to be a new one to people, but Mick Norton says, doesn't the Skogger have a JCB engine? I do not know the answer to that. I will check, but I will find out. Is Bell still part owned by John Deere? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not doing well at all today, am I? I'm going to say good morning, Badger Welding. I've drawn a number of forestry machines for the CNC, and he's also a bit late in the show because he was programming the very same CNC. Good morning to Trek websites as well. Not entirely sure where you are or what you're doing here, but you're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Everyone, we're a broad church here. Everyone is welcome. So going back to our mystery machine, which I can show you, looks like this, and I'm going to show you a smidgen more. There you are. The guesses are still coming in. We've had a Yanmar B12. It is not. Is it a Komatsu PC03-01? It is not that either. Jim Turner is going for a Komatsu 3-ton zero tail swim knuckle boom. It is not. And just going back to the Skogger, there you are. Steve Williamson says anything forestry is awesome. It's up there with Demolition. Yes, it's a close second. It's a close second, but never will Demolition be surpassed. It's my opinion anyway. So, yes, you've got a bit more machine to work with there on the mystery machine. You'll have to get your thoughts on what you think that might be. While you're mulling that over, let me take that away and press the button marked next.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Demolishing a footbridge against the clock and in the rain. Not ideal, but on the upside, it does help keep the dust down. Yeah, top job by the folks at Clark Demolition Company, obviously now part of True 7, have been for a while, but they are now True 7 Demolition as well. There's Gary Muirhead saying, good morning, Ruth Anthony. Are we all packed for Italy? I think she just finished her ironing, actually, off to get her nails done because, you know, you can't travel with less than perfect nails. Apparently. Who the hell knows? Our friend Simon Skelton over at Badger Welding 67 over on Instagram, apparently not content with supplying artwork to the gentry and the aristocracy of the industry, he's also something of a demolition engineer. He reckons that bridge could have been brought down in half the time with an 8-leg tipper with the body up. Not sure how the client would feel about that. We're going to go back to our mystery machine, which is that. Dan Cullen is going for a Kubota U15. It is not. Steve Williamson is going for a Takeuchi TB15. It is not. Is it a Volvo EC18D? Says Gary Muirhead. It is not. Is it a Pell job? It is not. Starting to sense a victory here. That's a bit more of it. That's a bit more of the machine you've got to work with. And I'm starting to regret saying that it was turquoise, because I think that may have been yesterday's machine. So my apologies, Martin, at Norwegian Earth Move. Yeah, it may well be green. I can't. I did this a few days ago. I don't actually know. But I can tell you, nobody's got it right. You haven't got the model, you haven't got the size, and you haven't got the manufacturer right yet. So keep the guesses coming in. Let me take it away just for a moment, because I do need to hit this. Quite possibly because I'm almost going off on holiday. We're off on our travels. Next, we're going to be visiting both France and Japan shortly, but first we're going to be calling in on the US to see a contractor with a very particular passion for all things Volvo.
Rodney George, president and owner of Rango, 10 years ago. Started with a backhoe and a dump truck. Right, over the course of the years, he evolved in the construction sector in Arizona, built up to today. We're at some, I'd call it 250 pieces of heavy iron and up to 450, 500 pieces of assets, throughout the company in Rango. And that's essentially where we're at today. We have around 400 employees working in 5 different states. Currently at the states, so we're in Arizona, Illinois, Colorado, heavy in Texas, right, and then in Arizona, obviously, is our home base in Mesa.
Rodney George, the owner of Rango Inc., is a very hands-on guy. I mean, he operates every equipment he has in his operation, and if it doesn't pass his test, then there's no way that he's going to move forward with any kind of purchases. So we really invested in the product support and taking care of Rango. More technicians, more parts to really improve truck availability. And with that, we grew their fleet from about 10 A60s to over 50 A60s, and including the first 950 that was delivered into North America.
We've really focused particularly on the matching of our fleet in high volume atmosphere. So we're really looking for that optimum match, which we found in West Texas is really like the 60-ton truck with the 950 Volvo hull. It's just been an incredible match for us, and we couldn't be more pleased with the results we're finding more and more each day with that setup and that combination in this particular market in West Texas. The most important thing to Rango is service. We're in remote locations. We're scattered throughout the U.S. and in sometimes pretty challenged areas. And Arnold, as our rep in the service side, as Rango, we couldn't be more happy to be a partner with Arnold Machinery. I've been in the mining atmosphere for over 25 years, and I can honestly say that we have never had a closer, morally true valued partner than Arnold Machinery.
When it comes to Rango on factors of equipment, it really comes down to support. I mean, everybody builds a pretty good product, but it really comes down to dealer support and that relationship that they have. Obviously, Volvo's a premium product. That A60 and the 950 are great machines, but everybody's machines break down, and it matters what happens at that point. And Arnold Machinery, silver service is our core value of our company, and we take care of the customer. Whatever it takes to make them happy is what we do. We're very hands-on at Arnold Machinery, so myself being the branch manager, I've been through the operator training courses for excavators, haul trucks, wheel loaders. We actually had Rango's trainer go back to Shippensburg and do the Train the Trainer program. So now he comes out and sits with all the new operators, and I believe they spend 2 days running with them to make sure that they're all dialed in and understand the truck and know what they're supposed to be doing.
I've noticed that the other drivers that drive the other Craics, they say that it's not as smooth as the Volvo whenever they get on it. I've had fun with it. It's super awesome. This is my first time doing this kind of stuff. I just needed something different. Been waitressing all day, so it's pretty exciting.
In the right conditions, we can load our trucks in under a minute in that piece of it. So it's literally like a 15-second cycle. It's shallower digging with high volume, right? And that's what we're exactly looking for. And it's been shown to be the perfect setup for us out here in this atmosphere.
So the responsiveness that you would get pretty much is good for your production. So if you're worried about that, this is definitely the way to go. These Volvo 950s definitely gives you a good response on it. Very quick, very accurate, you know, non-stop. It just never would give you a hesitant or nothing like that, especially digging through these rougher materials.
I've been mining for over 25 years, and my life in the mining atmosphere has always been brand X. In my time here in the last 2 years, Volvo's really won me over. It's really proven that they belong in this part of the mining sector, and couldn't be happier with the results that we've seen.
Right, lots to catch up on because that was quite a long film. Going to say good morning to Giorgio Palazzi over on Instagram. I don't know where you're from, but judging by your name, I'm guessing Italian. I'm guessing you're Italian. I'm headed your way very, very soon. Martin, the Norwegian Earth Mover, says, could the Mystery Machine be an old Takeuchi? It is not. Who else do we have here? Martin also enjoying the 950, the EC950 from Volvo there. There is Gary Muirhead, says, I was speaking to Volvo sales manager at Scott Plant. He told me he's just sold an EC750 in Scotland. If anyone gets a chance to go and see it, what a tool that is. Dan Khan says, well, fair play to that young lady. Yep, gave up waitressing to go and drive a big dump truck. Fantastic stuff. Now, Mystery Machine. Where are we? I can tell you that somebody is very close. Somebody is very, very close. Gary Muirhead is going for a PC05. It is not. Dan Cullen going for JCB 804. It is not. He's also gone for the Hannix H75. He's gone for blimey, he's gone for the Wacker Neuson 803. He's gone for the Hannix N120. Not any of those things. I'm going to say good morning to Alfred Eve. Morning, Eve. Watching over on LinkedIn. Been a guest on the show in the past. Good morning, Eve. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Haven't attended the show in ages. You've been sorely missed. Hasn't been the same without you, but happy to be here. Thanks, Eve, and good to see you. Now, I mentioned that somebody has got almost the right answer. Dan Cullen threw this out. He said, is it a Mitsubishi two-tonner? It is not. It is not. However, you're on the right track, and you got even closer when you said, is it a Mitsubishi ME35? Still not the right answer. But yeah, I tell you what, let me get rid of that. Or I tell you what, I'll show you a little bit more. There you are. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to show you. You're that close. That close. Not right, but you're that close. Who else is here? Dan said, I give up. Dan, don't give up. Trust me, you are the closest by a country mile so far. You're just a hair's breadth away. Trust me, you really are very, very close. Yes, I did mention the fact that we're going to be going off on our travels, didn't I? I'm going to do that right after a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Dan Cullen went in the wrong direction. He's gone for a Mitsubishi ME25. Close, but no cigar. Steve Williamson is going for the Mitsubishi MM30. It is not. Is it the Mitsubishi MS020? It is not. You're all ridiculously close, but you're not quite there. Now, we're going to be heading back to Intermat for our final film of the day. But if you've been following our coverage of the show so far, you'll know that Komatsu took the opportunity to showcase the new the Dash 10 version, rather, of its HD 605 dump truck all set me thinking, just what goes into the making of a Komatsu mining truck? Well, thankfully, I found the answer. Now, I can tell you that this film is about 6 minutes long, but you will want to stick around, partly to find out what the mystery machine is, but also because our final film of the day shows you a glimpse of the future with Bobcat. Still wrong guesses coming in on that. Now, I have got to dredge the next film, the Komatsu film, off of my hard drive, so bear with me for 2 ticks while I do that. It is, where are we? Here we go. not everyone a fan of that. Mick Norton says, God, that music is awful. Reach for the mute button. You can switch it back on it. Well, depends if you want to hear me. Depends. I can tell you, under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have a winner of today's Mystery Machine. But on the basis that I am in the holiday spirit, I'm going to let one slide. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson says, awesome. Totally agree. Mick Norton says, Komatsu's low sound noise mufflers claim should apply to the music as well as the equipment. I'm sorry, Mick. I'm sorry. I'll use something like Glenn Miller next time or something. I don't know. Andy Darvell says, big old factory. Good morning to Andy Darvell, by the way. So we left the Mystery Machine like this. That was one of our last guesses. That was another one. I can tell you that the actual answer is it is a Mitsubishi ME40. However, given that I'm in holiday spirit and given the fact that he's going back to work, I'm going to go with Dan Cullen. He says it's a Mitsubishi MM40. It's an ME40, but I think that's close enough given the fact that it is holiday time. So let me just show you the rest of it. There you are. At your auctions, there you are. That's what it looks like. Let me take that away. Steve Williamson, so close. You were very close. One model away, I think you were. But that's what the Mystery Machine is. I need to take a thing away. I need to get rid of that because, yes, we are going to be doing our final film of the day. And Mick Norton, I know you and I have discussed this. I know we've discussed it on the show. Stand by because this could be a talking point, I think. So let me get this out of the way first. You'll have to bear with me for just a second because I can't actually see the thing that I'm looking for. Bear with me for a second. You may have to bear with me for just a second because the file I was about to play you has just gone walkabout. Now, where is it? My apologies for this, getting very disjointed. Just going to download it. Just while that is downloading again, I will tell you, this is a film. It's a film of a machine that we discussed just after we got back from Intermat. It's a machine that we've discussed. It's a system we've discussed as well. And I've now got the file down in where I need it to be. So let me show it to you and we can talk about it afterwards. So bear with me for, I just need to crack something open. Oh dear. All a bit disjointed. Let me have a look. I will be with you in just a moment. Now, where the hell has that gone? I've downloaded it and it's completely vanished, which is not helpful at all. Okay. You have to stick with me for a second.
Hello, my name is Jeff Sagdu and I'm here at...
We do have a bit of an issue here, actually. I do apologise for this. This was here a minute ago, and now it's gone walkabout. I've got it. It's okay to bear with. This is the machine I've been looking for. Just need to put it on the screen now. It's a video file, and it is. Just while I'm doing that, just had somebody. Where did that go? Nothing's working this morning. Morning, Mark. Would you wish Leslie Ransom a very happy birthday from all her colleagues at Resurgam House? P.S. We love the show and banter. Thank you very much indeed for whoever the hell sent that. Oh dear, oh dear. You see, once the mic went wrong, or once I made the mic go wrong first thing this morning, you just know that things are going to go pear-shaped, don't you? Let's have a look. It is. We're here at long last.
My name is Dennis Agnew, and I'm here at Intermat 2024. Behind me is the TL2560E. Yes, the E. So this is the same size, weight, lift capacity, all of that of the 2560, but this is the electric version, giving us no sacrifice in performance, but giving us all the advantages of no vibration, no NOx gas, no CO2, and just a much more comfortable ride and a lot smoother. So basic functions of this machine is, the beauty is that it is the same as the internal combustion engine unit. So when you sit in this, you don't really know the difference of which unit you're in, except it's going to be quieter and less vibration. The joystick over here, it's got the steering wheel, so it's very similar to what you had, and that makes it very familiar to the customers that are using it. So let me take you through a little bit about this screen. This is a transparent OLED display. So it is transparent, it's tintable, it's touch capable, and it's able to be customized for the operator to bring up what they need to see, when they need to see it, and where they need to see the information. We can bring up different camera views, we can bring up different information about this unit, being able to give that operator anything that they need to see. That the more information they can bring up, that's great. If they just want to put everything away and use it just as a window, that's possible also. They can tint this, turn the tint up if they're out in a bright situation outside, maybe in direct sunlight. They can turn the tint down if they're inside and be able to actually just use it more as a window. One of the beauties of this is that we have this right side camera here. I'm going to take this right side camera and I'm just going to blow it up all the way so you can see it very well. This allows the operator to have a view of the right side of the machine when this lift arm comes down and is actually physically blocking the view of the right-hand side of the machine. Now that operator isn't compromising the safety of the machine or anyone around the machine, because you can see the right side of that machine while it's actually physically being blocked by that lift arm. And the other camera view that I'll talk a little bit about here is this camera. So we can see there are some people walking behind the unit, and depending on what range they're in, the red, the yellow, or the green, you can see people showing up. And this is actually a smart camera. So it's not just a backup camera, it's picking people out. It knows what is a human and what is not a human. So that gives your operator a lot more confidence operating, whether they're looking backwards or they're not able to actually look backwards, and have that additional piece of confidence to say, I'm not going to hit someone, I'm going to potentially be able to tie this into the machine to either give an audible warning or give control the machine somehow to make sure that this machine is as safe as possible. We don't want to be adding a lot of screens in. Why don't we just use the glass as the display and have that customizable, where I can drop, drag, put things away, bring things up, all these types of features in here to actually have that operator be able to use this and use that large format.
Just knew it was going to be a talking point. So let me start with Steve Williamson, who says, love the screens on that thing. See that OLED screen being popular, I hope. He goes on to say, demolition rigs and machines with GPS, I see so much potential for having this. He also says, some might say, what if you smash the window? Blah, blah. Well, you shouldn't be on a machine with tech like this if you're likely to smash it. And then, as anticipated, and I can see where he's coming from, don't necessarily agree, but we're going to throw this up. Mick Norton says, I think Bobcat's transparent screen is an open invitation for an operator to compromise lateral stability issues. That's what he says. Wow, but it's another bit of clutter in the cab, even if it's in the glasses, Dan Cullen. To my mind, I actually thought that was a solution to the clutter in the cab. Take away all the screens that are actually in front of the operator and stick everything you need to know down one side. So you're not, bearing in mind, if you're operating a telehandler, you're basically looking that way and that way. You're not, while you're operating, obviously not while you're driving, you're looking all around. But if you're operating, you're looking that way and that way. No, your vision isn't obscured by screens because the screen is right here. I think that's an amazing idea. That is an awesome video concept, says Dan Cullen. Clutter, says Steve Williamson. It's less. Yes, it is less clutter. I also wonder, and I take on board Mick's points, and I know he has a particular passion for lateral stability issues on telehandlers and site dumpers and the like. But I wonder if that notion of having the screen here might actually free the operator up a bit. So you actually get in the machine, you fire it up, you choose your settings, and because it's off to one side, you're not doing it while you're driving along. You literally turn and I'll have that view with this, and I'll have that on there and that. And then you start work. So you're not focused on it at all until you need to be. I think that's a major step forward. Ed Butler says, morning all. Morning, Ed. Thank you very much indeed for being here. You've missed the when we're giving away the free money, and the dancing girls today were awesome. Awesome. Dan Cullen says, can you invert GPS and all other electronics into it? Bearing in mind that machine that you've just seen and the OLED display, both prototypes, but that is very much the idea. Take all of those various, GPS operating, the built-in operating display and everything else, take all of that, take it all out and stick it over here. Stick it to the side, and you can see through it. And I have one regret with that, because we did actually see it after we put the camera away. Dennis did actually show us how the tint works, and you can have it completely transparent, but you press a button, and all of a sudden it's like you put your sunglasses on. Thought of literally everything. I was told it will work with GPS in time, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bearing in mind what we're talking about here is merely a software electronic interface. Of course it can. Of course it can. Everything these days is plug and play. I could probably plug it into the computer screen that I'm looking at right there, and it would work perfectly well. That's the way it works. I personally think it's an awesome. Even if it doesn't end up being precisely like that, I do think it does show that Bobcat are looking at the future. The last time we saw that OLED display, in actual fact, they had it on a static machine over in the Czech Republic, and they'd actually built it into the front screen of a Bobcat skid steer loader. So you could drive looking through it, but your various readings and displays you could access them, and they would be there, but you could look through it. Personally, I think that's a step too far, because I do think that could be potentially distracting, but I do think putting it off to one side, I think is fantastic. Mick Norton says, for those that know about stability triangles and the movement of the equipment center of gravity when machine is loaded, unloaded, will understand my concern. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you're in contact with Dennis Agnew. I did kind of link the pair of you together. I'm hoping that those discussions are going on. The one thing I would say is nothing that you've just seen actually changes center of gravity. What we're talking about is purely an electronic interface that allows you to see effectively through the boom. Now, if that means you can see through the boom and therefore you're being a bit bolder in what you're doing, i.e. you're driving along with the boom raised, Mick, I'm with you 100%. If, however, you're using it in the way in which it is intended, somebody else's teeth in this morning, I think it's an absolute boon. I really do. Steve says it makes me laugh sometimes when people say things like this are shit, including tilt rotators. The boss gets them, and it's the best. Typical UK mindset. Anything new, and it's like, oh no, yeah, ain't that the truth? In so many things. There's a bit of the mindset in the UK, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's anti-innovation or anti-success or anti-progress. And I'm sure I've told you this before. two instances. We were doing, me and my old business partner, sadly no longer with us, we're doing the PR for a UK company in the construction equipment field. And my colleague had been out and bought himself a Mercedes. It was secondhand, had about 30,000 miles on the clock, but it was a Mercedes, very nice car. We arrived at the headquarters of the company that we were doing the PR for. And literally, we saw the MD of the company looking out the window. When we went in, he said, "See, you got a new Merc. Am I paying for that?" Flip that around. I told that story to a guy in the States, and they said, when we've got a very important customer, we send out our, sales manager or whatever it might be, in the fanciest car we can find. We send him in the Porsche or the Ferrari, because when that car pulls up, the customer in America looks at it and says, "Wow, I must be doing okay because they've sent the big boys." So it's a real mindset shift. It really is. And, much the same as our willingness to build people up and pull them back down again. But yeah, and I do think that's a degree of the discussion about electric. I think there are parts of the world, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, other parts of the world that have taken a look at electric and gone, do you know what? In some applications, that is the way forward. That's going to be a huge help. That will allow us to do jobs we couldn't do before. It will allow us to work in places we couldn't access before. Sign me up. Where do I get hold of my electric machine? And yet here in the UK, we had about a 6-month honeymoon period where we all said, "Oh, that's innovative. That's very forward thinking. How marvellous. No diesel chugging away in the background. It'll be electric. Fantastic." And then the British mindset kicked in and we all went, batteries, lithium, resale values. Based on what? We have a concern about the resale value of electric machines. Nobody's resold any yet. We have a concern about the lifetime of the battery. According to the fine folks at Volvo, who I have enormous faith and trust in, they reckon that the battery will outlast the machine by a considerable margin. And yet here in the UK, we've done the vampire thing, haven't we? Oh, electric, get out of here. We don't want anything to do with Steve. It's a British mindset, it really is. Steve says, "I get more positive messages and comments from people abroad than I get people I know and people I don't know in the UK." Yeah. I mean, we have exactly the same. I mean, it helps the fact that our biggest audience is not in the UK. It's our biggest audience by and large is the States. But yeah, we have exactly the same thing. I mean, the biggest gripes, the biggest complaints, the biggest moans and whines and whinges and negative feedback that I get comes almost exclusively from the UK. I mean, for example, when I've had a message this morning. Let's have a look. Just going to say to Badger Welding, do you think those screens are going to last in a site environment? Yes, I do. They've thought of that, trust me. I've had a message this morning, but I wrote something the other day, questioning a certain aspect of the demolition industry. The UK demolition industry chunters under its breath and tells me I'm a disgrace to the industry and so on down the line. People from Australia, literally this morning, from America, from New Zealand, yes, we've got exactly the same situation here. Glad to see you're addressing it. That's the difference. Chris Ford says, "Have you seen the resale value of electric cars?" I haven't. And one thing I did, and I almost played it, but I did think it was probably a bit too far off to one side. There was I think she was Irish. There was an Irish car dealer who was basically said that they will no longer deal in used electric cars. They want nothing to do with it because of concerns over the quality of the battery and everything else. But again, she was well questioned, and as far as I can tell, nothing much to. It wasn't like, we've had 15 of these cars and 10 of them have caught fire. There was none of that. It was just seemed to be a very personal view. Ed Butler says, "I've got a father like that doing a job, and if I had a puncher or needed a new battery on the machine, I would have taken all the profit that was made out of the job." Unfortunately, I think Garvin at Mostly Digger saying, "Is that Nadia?" It may have been. I wish I'd played it now, but I did watch a video on this yesterday. To my mind, there will come a time. I think we're at at a point of shift, a paradigm shift in the industry. And I do think those that jump in to electric, to hydrogen, to GPS, to tilt rotators and all that, the earliest will ultimately win. I really do. Because, for example, if let's use Balfour Beatty as an example. Balfour Beatty pops out this afternoon and wins a $3 billion motorway project. And somebody wise and all-knowing at Balfour Beatty says, we are going to make this the first all-electric motorway construction project ever. And all of a sudden, you'll have the Lynches, the Flannerys, the Sunbelts falling over themselves to buy and to learn and to understand electric machines. Whereas those who have already made the commitment, they've got nothing to learn. They've already knocked off the rough edges. They already know how it all works. We are a conservative nation, I'm afraid. Steve says, we're looking at hybrid or electric cars. Told by Ford they will not be producing cars that are just petrol or diesel anymore. Everything is going hybrid or electric. Yeah. I mean, listen, I live on the outskirts of London. We started out with a low emission zone that was about that big. Then we said it was that big. Then we said it was that big. Then it became an ultra low emission zone, which was, to begin with, it was just that bit in the middle of London, and then that got bigger. It's now on, bearing in mind my wife's got a hybrid car, but it's now on our doorstep. If I drive half a mile down the road, I'm in an ultra low emission zone. If we didn't have a hybrid car, I'd be paying 12.5 quid a day to drive that. You just know the way that this is headed. There will come a time when Sadiq Khan or one of his successors says, that's it, we're done. No diesel, no petrol. If you want to drive in this huge swathe of the southeast of England, and don't think that will be the end of it, if you want to drive in this part of the south of England, you will need to be driving either a hydrogen car or an electric car. There is no option. Cub Demolition just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you. Mick Norton says, there's nothing better than some constructive criticism. I've never been one for blowing smoke up a manufacturer's accredited body's arse when I feel something's not safe or impractical. And I think that, to be honest, is one of the best bits of this show. I think if I turned up every morning and said, here's a new Caterpillar machine, and we all agreed it was marvelous, how shit would that be? That is why we have the audience we have, because we do have people like Mick who immediately looks at the safety aspect. We have people like Ken Hatcher who. And I don't blame him for this. He is always erring towards the negative. Does it do this? Does it do that? Are the sprockets where they need to be? And so on down the line. I think that's what debate is about. As I say, if I were doing a show where we all agreed we'd turn up and just say nice things about machines and to each other, I don't think I'd last a week. I'd get bored. I like the to and fro. And ultimately, things like that prototype from Bobcat. The machine itself is a prototype, but it's not a giant leap. It's a proven telescopic handler that is now electric powered. I would imagine if there were enough demand, or if they really wanted to, I would imagine Bobcat could turn that on within a couple of weeks and make that happen. Maybe maybe without the OLED screen, but they could make that happen very, very quickly. But what Intermat, bearing in mind, there was 127,400 people made their way through the gates of the Intermat show. So they have now got a huge base of people. And trust me, the Bobcat stand was unquestionably one of the busiest. They've now got all of those people that have had a look, poked it, prodded it, asked questions, made suggestions. That product, that telescopic handler and that OLED screen will be better by the time it is actually released as a result of the Intermat show, shows like this, feedback from the likes of Mick Norton. That's what it's all about. Demolition is, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but they've joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you. If you're not first, you're last. Yeah. Listen, in my tiny, teensy-weensy bit of the world, I started doing a construction and demolition live stream 4 years ago. And I am the best in the world at it because nobody else does it. I stole a march, and, various strange-haired weirdos have tried to do it since. Didn't work because they don't have the audience, they don't have the background, they don't have the knowledge, and they don't have the passion for it. I was first, and I'm the leader. A leader in a field of one, but I'm the leader because I decided to make the jump. Dan Carl says, actually, that side screen is a great concept on a 360, but it's the last of it, as multiple ops won't give a damn and scratch the screen, wiping it. Again, here's the thing. I know what you're saying, Dan, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. But if you are putting that level of tech, which is not going to be cheap, at least initially, if you're putting that level of tech in the hands of people that don't look after the screen or the machine within which it's sat, then you're an idiot. You're a fool. And if you are the type of operator that sees a screen like that and decides to wash it with an oily rag or hose it down or whatever it might be, then you too are an idiot and a fool. And that, again, I think is where you have the advantage. Andy Dalville may or may not still be in the chat. He has joined AR Demolition. He has been allocated a single machine. Now, that cuts both ways. Because that machine, although it's owned by AR Demolition, that machine is Andy's. Andy will take enormously good care of it. He'll grease it, he'll do the filters, he'll wash it down, he'll keep it clean, and all of those things. He will do that because he considers that machine to be his. It is his pride and joy. But the flip side of that is that AR Demolition, Richard Dolman or one of his team, can look out the window into the yard and see that machine that Andy Dalvell has been allocated is looking dirty, hasn't been greased, cab's filthy, full of biscuit wrappers, and they can pull him in and say, Andy, sort it out. Because one man, one machine. If you allocate one man, one machine to a machine like that telescopic handler, and, hopefully he is one of your better operators. He's been trained how to drive that screen and everything else, but he's also been allocated that machine, so he takes pride in it, but he can also be reprimanded if he doesn't take good care of it. That problem there does not exist. It goes away. You get the right people to do the right job in the right way, reward them accordingly. Job's a good one. Jim Turner says, spot on, Mark. Companies sometimes end up with a lot of yes men, and development need to have people who are for and against in order to get a product that will do the job properly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do know that there are contractors and what have you out there that will consult their operators. We're going to buy a new excavator. What do you think? And the operator says, well, personally, I'd have nothing but a Hitachi. And if it turns up the following day and he's got himself a Lugon, I realise that does happen. But by the same token, they're taking that on board. And ultimately, I think when you've got that with things like, development of machines, prototypes are a weird thing. And I just want to say a very quick good morning to Hyundai Europe, who have just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you. See you at Hillhead. I think when prototypes in the past, and we've all seen it, I think, with like concept cars at, is it the Geneva Motor Fair, where you get these outlandish cars with wheels on sideways and they go underwater and they've got wings, and it's never going to come to anything. It's a thing that, they want to make a statement. Not going to come to a thing. That is not the case in this industry, and particularly with a machine like that Volvo, that Bobcat rather, and the Volvo HX40. It's a case of, we are thinking about this. If there is sufficient demand, we could make a hydrogen-powered ADT, and if there's sufficient demand, we can make an electric telescopic handler with this fancy OLED screen. But you are the experts. You 127,400 people that have walked through the doors of Intermat. You are the experts. What do you reckon? What have we got right? What have we got wrong? What should we have on it? What should we take off of it? How would it work in your application? And that is how the machines finally pop out when they're finally birthed at some point, and somebody says, well, they've clearly done their homework. Yes, they've done their homework, but the people that have interacted with those machines have done their homework as well. He said, ranting a little bit. Steve says, I started the tilt rotor group at the right time. I was the first, and it's the biggest tilt rotator group in the world. There you are. Listen, when I started doing Instagram, there was a a channel called Demolition Daily, and they had about 20,000 followers, and I had about 5. Don't mean 500, I mean 5. And I remember saying to Fred, that's there is my aim. I want a bit of that. I want 20,000. But I thought 20,000 was the ceiling. I thought that was as far as we would go. Well, we caught them in about 6 months. I think Demolition Daily probably still about the same size, and we're at 150,000 because we committed to it. Much the same as we're talking about manufacturers committing. Well said, Mark, says Stephen. He also goes on to say, we get our own machines here. If we're off, it sits and they get a hired machine in. They look after us, and the older guys have been here for 30, 40 years. That tells me it's a good company. That tells me it's a good company too. Yeah. I mean, going back to AR Demolition, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. AR Demolition are very big on training. As far as I remember, and if somebody knows better, please tell me. But as far as I remember, they were the first contractor to invest in a demolition, a high-reach simulator. They bought the old one from the NFDC and they put it in their own training room. But further than that, they at the time that they did this, they were running a lot of Volvos. They run a lot of they run a handful of Kiesel or K-Tech machines as well. Very, very specific. But they went out. They wanted some machines for their training operation, so they went out and they invested in Caterpillar machines. Not only did they invest in Caterpillar machines, they went for a different quick coupler and a different set of attachments. So there was no chance of somebody going to work on site and thinking, I'm short of a machine, or I'm short of a detachment or whatever. I'll borrow something from the training group. There's no way you could do that because the two are not compatible. That's the training fleet over there. That's the demolition fleet over there. The twain shall never meet. That's a commitment. It's expensive. Don't get me wrong, it's expensive. But that is a level of commitment, which is why I think Andy Dalville has properly landed on his feet. Jim Turner says manufacturers need people that will put their products in real-life situations and truly put them through their paces. In order to find the faults and weaknesses, I threw my hat in that ring the other week. It would be a great job if it comes off. I hope it does. I've always wondered that. There is, listen, the manufacturers of equipment are way cleverer than I am. But the way that it works, and I was probably exposed more to the Caterpillar, what they used to refer to as the field follow system. So they would make 2, 3, half a dozen different machines, or half a dozen of a new machine, and they would send them out to various people around Europe, or I guess they do the same in North America. They would handpick a bunch of people and say, here's a machine, go play with it for 6 months, let us know what you think. The issue with that is, and this, as I say, this is not unique to Caterpillar. The issue with that is the fact that they are giving those machines to existing Caterpillar customers. So for a start, they will be very familiar with the Caterpillar operating system. So I think they come with a degree of baggage. But if you are, if you're running a fleet of 20, 30, 100 Caterpillar machines and they loan you a machine for 6 months, just how negative are you going to be when you go back? Are you going to go back and say, we've got our Caterpillar fleet, which we love, but that new prototype you've come up with is a heap of shit? Are they going to do that? Now, I don't know what the alternative is, because you don't, conversely, you wouldn't want to take a Caterpillar machine, go find a Komatsu customer and say, there you go play with that, knock the rough edges off that for 6 months, because you know full well that the Komatsu customer too will come with a degree of baggage, and they will come back and say, well, it's not as good as the Komatsu equivalent. I don't know why you even loaned it to us. It's a piece of crap. I realise that. But that, I think, is why it's kind of the unseen benefit. I know we all come at exhibitions, as an example, from a specific point of view. When I go there because I need to generate news and find out what's going on in the industry, keep in touch with people and so on down the line. But I think that ability to show industry people in advance what a new machine might look like, how it might operate, some of the technology it might have on it, and to get the feedback there and then before somebody says, yes, go build 10,000 of those. I think they're a fantastic thing. Now, I don't know how we've run over an hour without actually ending the show, but we have. So I am going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat. See what you're all saying today. I think we've covered most of it anyway, but I will remind you, there is no show tomorrow. There is no show on Monday. There is no show on Tuesday. I'll be back bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and full of pizza on Wednesday. But yes, so between now and Wednesday, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Stay safe. I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Right, shall we have some music? What do we got here? What's that one sound like? That's not bad. Not bad. We'll do with that. Just about hear it. That's all good. Jim Turner says, when O&K... No, I tell you what, rather than me reading it, let me put it on the screen. When O&K made the RH300, it was on the same site as my dad was on. A fella called Nobby drove it. An O&K person was with the machine. Nobby worked it as hard as possible, broke everything he could. O&K replaced with beefed up parts until they had an unbeatable machine. And that's why the O&K derived machines are so good. Yes. To a large degree, it's only now with the benefit of 4 and a bit years hindsight that I can see that I did a similar thing with this show. I decided on a Friday that I was going to start a live stream in the midst of COVID. Didn't think I had enough to say, so I decided on my first show I would have a guest. So I phoned Peter Haddock and said, Peter, any chance you could pop onto a live stream? And he said, I've never done one. And I said, I've never done one. So we learned it together. And, Peter still does live shows now. Majority of them from site or from exhibition centres. I obviously do this show as well, but we decided to knock the rough edges off us together. And, the rough edges continue to be, well, hopefully continue to be knocked off, although given the fact that I couldn't find a video and I forgot to turn the sound on this morning, you'd never know. Steve says, never slag off anything. I operate steel wrist, and if I slagged off Knox, I wouldn't have had the one opportunity to travel the world. Never be biased. No, indeed, never be. And is anyone really naive enough to believe that a manufacturer has all the answers? Caterpillar makes the biggest range of equipment in the world. They're the biggest manufacturer. They've got the broadest product line, and they do what they do very well. But you would be very, very naive. I mean, even beyond being a Caterpillar fanboy, you would be very, very naive to believe that Caterpillar has got all of the answers in all of the categories and in all of the weight ranges. You might be an absolute Caterpillar fanboy, but you might also accept the fact that Kubota make a really good mini excavator. You might also accept that maybe the Volvo ADTs are marginally better, and so on down the line. I've got enormous respect for anybody that runs a single equipment fleet. If somebody goes all Volvo, all Cat, all Komatsu, absolutely fine. But I think you would have to be very, very, very naive to believe that one manufacturer has all of the answers. And the music has gone off for reasons I can't fully understand. I think it was that one. There we are. That's better. So yes, that's exactly where we are. Team X Cycling. Don't know what they're doing here, but you're very welcome, people. I had another comment here. Who's that one from? Says Steve Williamson, Volvo, 14 tons up, great. Below, I think there is better. Yeah. And listen, I wouldn't argue with that. I often refer to the fact that, if I was in the market for an excavator, it'll never happen. But if I was in the market for an excavator, I would be inclined to look at Volvo and Liebherr first. That would be my starting point. However, if I was in the market for a backhoe loader, my starting point would be JCB. If I was in the market for an ADT, my starting point would be Volvo. If I was in the market for a dozer, my starting point would be Caterpillar, and so on down the line. Not necessarily going with those, but that would be my starting point. Been a cracking show today. We've not mentioned porn or tit. Until then. I mean, there's been digger porn aplenty, so I guess that kind of counts. Yes, I think we've done 5 days on the trot with the mention of those frontal appendages. Good Lord. What a weird show. Steve says, Wacker Neuson below 14 tons, way better than Volvo. It's an interesting point. You know, it's a very interesting point that I don't, and I realise what they do. I tend to think of Wackanossen as dumpers and things. Weird, right? I think you do have associations, don't you? Who was I thinking about the other? I was talking to the guys at Alza, who have just been bought, by the way. They've been bought by Oshkosh, who also own JLG, the access platform people. But I was talking to one of their guys over at Intermat, and in my head, Alza basically make dumpers. They make other things as well. And it's only when you go to their show stage, like, do you know what? I'd forgotten they did that. Completely forgotten they did that. Bobcat again, you know, you say the name Bobcat, I think most people go, yes, skid steer loaders. Maybe a few might go mini excavators. Would you necessarily go telehandlers? Maybe you would, I don't know. Right, people, we discovered that our mystery machine was a Mitsubishi ME40. Dan Cullen got the right answer, ish. Here we are. That's that done with. So yes, I'm going to be out of here in just a moment. Chris Ford says, only had one Liebherr. The spares made Cat look cheap. Never had one since. Steve says, best 12-ton duck, Takeuchi, stability and power. There you are. Takeuchi, if you are listening, there's a man, a myth and a legend up in the Highlands of Scotland. He's a huge fan. He should be one of your ambassadors. He's even coming up with slogans for you. Best 12-ton duck, Takeuchi, stability and power. Never think of ducks being particularly powerful nor stable, do you? Just, it's the way my brain works. Everybody, I'm going away, literally. This time tomorrow, I will be on a plane on my way to Bergamo. Looking forward to it enormously. Safe travels to you, Mrs. A. Thank you very much indeed, Jim. Yes, there is going to be, I mentioned it yesterday, I will quickly remind you, Saturday this week is 3,000 days since the Didcot disaster that claimed the lives of 4 demolition workers. So I've done something for tomorrow, which you will receive, and I've done another thing for Saturday, the actual anniversary. I don't think 3,000 days is actually an anniversary, but you get my point. And then you've got a couple of days to basically remember what life was like when you didn't have this twat talking to you on a daily basis. But I will be back on Wednesday to remind you just how bad it can be. Until then, everybody, please look after yourselves. I'd like to return with a full audience, a full contingent. I don't want to come back and find that anybody's ill, injured, or otherwise missing. Mark Whiting, have a great holiday, mate. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. I will be thinking of you while I'm chowing down polenta and mushrooms. And I even know the restaurant I'm going to have them. I'm a man of simple pleasures. Everybody, please look after yourselves. Thank you for all your input. I'm not signing off forever, but I would like to say, and because we've mentioned this already, have a great time, buddy. Says Badger Welding over on Instagram. Thank you very much indeed. The one thing I will say, this show only works because of this. If it were just me sitting here telling you about things and there was no two-way street, which is where the other haircut went completely wrong, made it about himself. This show is about you guys and your insight and your feedback and your knowledge and your experience. Please keep it coming. The show wouldn't be half as good as it is. We do have a bit of a we do have bit of a disagreement with. Now, bearing in mind, Steve Williamson is the man that introduced us all to the joys, such as they are, of spicy banana pizza. I've just mentioned polenta with mushrooms. He says disgusting. How very dare you? Steve is crying into his beer right now. Stop it. No, I mean every word of it. You are men, princes among men, and a few women as well. Thank you for your presence. See you Wednesday. I'm going to go and have a quiet cry in the morning. In the morning, in the corner, I'm going to do that. I'm not. I'm going to go and take my wife for a cup of coffee to get her warmed up for all the coffee we're going to drink over in Bergamo. Everybody, see you Wednesday. Thank you for your input. See you soon. All the best.